Trust Your Struggle is a place of inspiration. We have these conversations with individuals about the monumental struggles that they've had in their life, what they've done to overcome them, how these struggles and what they've done have kind of helped define who they are today. In this episode, we sit down with visionary photographer Giulio. He discusses his education in debt building and then taking the bold risk to leave corporate America to pursue his love for photography, and how standing in a bull ring provided him clarity and the realization that the only way to be prolific is to be true to yourself, so it's okay to let people hate you.
Thanks for jumping on here and doing this with me.
Yeah, totally. I will say that I've not been drinking in a while, just because kind of got, I don't know, it's not really into it anymore. I'm more of a smoker, but for your to help me get things going, I guess. Not really, but but for fun. And then look, I even got the cactus shot glass.
Oh, nice,
That's
dude.
That's it. Not like this is a lot of alcohol, but it'll.
Nice,
Cheers.
dude. Cheers, man.
Smoke my herb tonight. Ching ching ding a ling.
Nice, man. Down the hatch.
I do good with the hard shit,
Yep.
All right, so I'm Giulio. My friends call me Giulio Sciorio. Been an artist since I was born. We all are, we all are created and are creators, but I got really serious into photography as far as a profession in 2005, and was able to use certain aggressive marketing techniques to pull myself out of poverty. Grew pretty quickly in the Phoenix market and then beyond, and been a leader in the photo industry since. And now I'm here in Austin, Texas, and I'm on I'm in the pandemic paradise, I guess you would say. But I've been on hiatus since September at the urging of my awesome wife for a while. She's like, take a break. So I've been on a break then. Originally from Buffalo, but I grew up in Phoenix. I'm 45. So education, street, mainly, although I went to school with you, as you know, the Art Institute of Phoenix. So I don't really count that as education. It was more so experience in debt building. It was an education in debt building. Yeah. But education is on the street, and by taking bold risks and trying to do them with as much intelligence as possible. So that's the skinny.
So most of the stuff that you've done, you said, has been photography, but you didn't go to the Art Institute for photography. Is that right?
Yeah. I went to school for animation. I was going to go to school for web, and at the last minute, I was like, "No, let's go to school for animation." And then once I was in, I was like, "Shit, should have went to school for web." As far as like making more money, but as far as like what I enjoyed more, it was certainly animation. But even more than that was photography. The thing is, like, I was just learning at a pace that I was really happy with, and I enjoyed having that beginner's mindset for some time and not learning things, quote unquote, the right way. So I continued on with just letting the passion fuel me with photography,
Nice, dude. And what got you into photography? Like, where did that start?
Sure. Well, I inherited my camera from my buddy Travis, who passed away when I was 18. I want to say it's like 93, 94-ish, right around that time. And we never had a picture together. And that's when I realized how powerful photography is. So I still have a picture of him that he took, a self-portrait, back when we called them self-portraits. And so when I got the camera, I was trying to make sense of all this within the grief and everything that you go through when someone close to you passes. But I ended up doing a selfie on top of the cupola of the Vatican. So that kind of, I put those together. And that's when I really realized the power of photography. It wasn't necessarily about the art at the time, but it was more so the comprehension is that, as I get older, my memory fades. What's going to trigger the memory, the sights and the sounds and the emotions is the photograph, the printed photograph, mind you, at the time. And I still feel that you get more of that with a printed photograph than you do with a and digital capture, which is really just an image. It's not really a photograph until it's printed. So that's how I got into it. And then I just bought the 35 millimeter photographer's handbook, Time Life series of photography, which is like, I don't know, like a 20 volume set. And I just dove in and I allowed myself space to make garbage and to fuck up and to break things and, you know,
Yeah,
progress
it's
forward.
interesting what you said about the like the printed photography, right? And how everything's digital now. And, I wonder what that's going to be like later on to look back for memories, and how that stuff's going to be curated. Like,
Probably through AI at this point. I think it depends on partly on the user, but also partly on the software, because I hate archiving digital files. I never enjoyed it.
yeah, exactly. And I mean, there's a lot of people that don't even back up their phones. So, it's lost in the ether after that.
Yeah, and it gets recompressed and recompressed. When I was working with Panasonic, to kind of just jump around, I guess, they spent a lot of money on surveying the youths, whatever generation they were studying at the time. What they had found, they were completely taken by surprise, was that young people don't save or archive their photos. They were, this was like 6-7 years ago. They were basically, once they're uploaded, they delete it off their phone if they need more space. And that was to them how they were handling their images. And, I had an idea that it wasn't the same as what I did, or maybe what other people had done. But when I learned about that not everybody was doing it, but a good amount of people surveyed around the world that Panasonic had done when they were doing this, I was like, all right, well, definitely it's changing. There's definitely a different type of respect. I don't know. I'm not going to say it's less respect, but there's a different type of respect for photography, and definitely the craft. The craft itself was, I don't want to say it was dying, but it was shrinking. Like anything
Yeah,
else, like anything else,
of course. And now everyone has a camera in their pocket, and they're, curating and documenting their life.
Yeah, and hopefully, and I think that's a good thing. Although that's a minority. My opinions of photography are definitely in a minority and definitely inflammatory, depending on who you talk to. But it's a good thing that everybody has that ability to create in that spontaneous moment, which is usually how most people create. They get that inspiration and they create, versus people that are professional. It's like you have to wake up and be creative at 10 out of 10, every day.
Oh yeah, for sure.
So it's,
Um,
yeah, it's a different when I noticed that world, I started to watch certain things carefully.
Gotcha. And with your photography, what are some of the projects that you've worked on that you've really enjoyed a lot, that you're kind of like most proud of?
Oh, I really like, now looking back now, I really like doing the large print issues I did back around 2007 with Phoenix New Times, which is Village Voice Media, shooting their best ofs. It was great because basically the art director at the time, Jillian, she trusted me, and she was like, go out and shoot this, and this is going to be your deal, and make it good for you. And then, we'll see you, and turn everything in within a few months, hopefully sooner if you can. And they send you out. And then for it was great in Arizona in the summertime, you had work, which is a very slow time in Arizona because of the heat. So then it was basically hit up these cool local celebrities, some national or international celebrities, connect with them, make a portrait that is of your vision, because these are personality profiles, and have fun. And it was awesome. That was truly being paid to make my art, versus compromising, which is what you normally do with commercial art. There was really no compromise. I mean, it was small, but very, very little compromise.
So do you think they hired you because of your photography style?
Well, yeah, partly that, and then they continue to hire me because of my integrity of basically turning things in on time and getting quality photography to them every time.
Nice. Yeah, exactly. Quality, that's key, right? Like,
Because I think what a lot of young creators, especially people that, I mean, there's so many facets to being a full-time artist that, you think about it from a a beginner's perspective, and you just think about the good stuff. You don't think about all the hard stuff and all the emotional strain, that goes along with it. So, because I was able to turn things in and be reliable. It was a big deal because the thing is, you're putting your client's job on the line. If you completely fuck up a commission, people are gonna get fired because of you. Because there are people that are behind the scenes fighting for you in meetings, saying, "Look, I really want Giulio to shoot for us. Here's his work, and here's why." And so they're putting their reputation and their job on the line. And it's like, if you go in there like a dumbass and you're completely hammered or whatever it is, you hear about these things all the time. That person it can cost them their job, and obviously cost you a relationship within your business, which is silly.
Yeah, exactly. Don't want to be burning those bridges. So.
No.
So I guess the whole topic of, this whole discussion is really about, trusting your struggle. So one of the things I want to touch on and have you speak about is, like, what was one of those times in your life where you had that struggle? And, from that, like, what were the results of that and the outcome?
So this is where I pull out my giant board of struggles. And like, it's like a giant wheel. Seriously. If you imagine I were to spin it, because when I saw the email, I was like, well, fuck, man, which one?
I know, right? Exactly. So I think it's like, something that's kind of defined who you are today, or how you handle situations and what you deal with.
Well, what's going on, man. Yeah, that's a very deep question that
I know. Yeah,
would require a deep answer, but I think
let's go deep, G.
Well, I think the initial struggle was the hardest. So I left corporate America. I mean, I was working with you, and you were an art director, and at the time I was doing executive business-to-business sales or something like that for this toy company. And the boss, who you remember, was very difficult to work with, but he fired me, for whatever, he just fired me. And I was like, at this time, it was like I got fired, and right before I got fired, my mother hits me up. She's like, she has mental illness, and she's like, I'm on crack. And I'm like, oh shit. So that's real. And that was she never had any issues with substance abuse. So that came. And then my dog died, and I separated with my fiance, which was a relief, but still stressful. So all these things happened in a short period of time. And I was like, wow, well, I can't even pay my bills at this point, which I think is probably familiar for a lot of people. And I'm going to have to sell my house and go on welfare for a bit. And I'm like, well, fuck it. If I'm going to do this, then I'm going to get past my huge internal fear, which was doing what I love and going towards that obstacle, which was like, how do I make people pay me for doing something that I absolutely love? And not that and people use that term love a little bit, but I mean, like, I loved it more than any person, place, or thing, which was that self-expression, that feeling of learning about myself through the creation process, and then through the final piece, which is examining a photo and kind of looking at what you did well, and learning about yourself, because that's what art is. You learn a lot about yourself in the final piece, but also in the creation. So when I got to that point, I'm like, cool, I'm just going to sell my house. And this was 2005. So the housing market was good. I made a little bit of dough, but setting up my business and stuff and learning about it, I blew through that. I was on welfare. And then I was like, well, the only way out of this situation is to create work, and more importantly, to market it. And that was scary, because I was just like, how do I get people to pay me for something that I love? And how do you market art, which is such plentiful? And so I just basically just dove in, and 2005 internet wasn't that hot, so there wasn't a ton of information. I just started calling people, and I started emailing people, and every time it was scary, but that's
just
how
call people.
Yeah, just pick up the phone, dude, and just be like, hey, I'm Giulio. I'm a photographer here in Phoenix, and I shoot portraits and lifestyle, and I would love to shoot for your publication. Can I show you my work? And most of the time it was no, or you get a voicemail, but I would keep track and keep notes of who I'm talking to. And I would just keep on it. And it was a short list. It was like maybe like 50 companies that I wanted to potentially shoot for. And,
Really
eventually...
quick.
Yeah.
Did you do any unique promotions or marketing or anything like that to make your stuff stand out?
Eventually, totally, but not at that time. This
Oh,
was
gotcha.
just
Okay.
brute force. I remember people saying, "Hey, you're pleasantly aggressive." Um, Normally, that would turn people off, but because I was friendly, I wasn't like aggressive as far as like the verbiage I used, but I was more like I would call them Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Hey, Jillian, it's Julio. I left you a voicemail on Monday, and then I shot you an email on Tuesday. I know you're really busy, but I would really like the opportunity to show you my work. And that's kind of how I would go. After about 6 weeks of this, all like every day, I would be either call or an email and alternate. So after about 6 weeks of this, I would kind of just put them on the back burner for a couple weeks, that I'd start back up again. Because I figured eventually they're going to be like, dude, fuck off. Or they're going to be like, show me your work, which is another way they could be like, fuck off. At least we showed you, at least you got this. I'm like, well, cool.
Right. Yeah.
But
Did you get any fuck offs?
not with that exact language, but yeah, you're
Well,
gonna
yeah,
get
exactly.
you're probably about 80%, and then at that point, it's like, dude, do you really love it? Do you really love it? Do you really love the idea of doing this day in and day out and making your living doing this? Because that's what it is. And if you do love it day in and day out, then that's what's going to bridge that gap of pain and that barrier, right? That obstacle, which is, as Marcus Aurelius had talked about so many years ago, the way to go. And I continued because I'm like, I don't know any other option at this point. And eventually I broke through, and things got good.
What was that breaking point?
So that
When
was
things
the
got good.
yeah. So that was Phoenix New Times, and I had
Okay.
clients up to this point, but Jillian was like, "All right, let me see your book." And because it's a weekly magazine, Village Waste Media is weekly. When you shoot a cover, you shoot it on. You have to deliver it by Tuesday. It goes to hits the streets on Thursday, and then you get paid the next Tuesday. So it's a good amount of regular money coming in. And then I had a few other local magazines. One was shooting food and chefs, another was something else, and was actually the other one was a GLBT publication, and that was cool. And that was mainly New Times was the one that really propelled me in the local market. I'm also working with you on Java as an art magazine, even though,
Oh yeah, that's right.
yeah, even though there was no money, that was a strategic move, which did really
Nice. And so talking about that time where you struggled, where you were, on welfare and dealing with all the family situations and stuff like that. What was it that got you through all of that?
it was just my love of doing the work,
Gotcha.
and being like, okay, well, I'm broke, but at the time, again, I was barely 30 years old, not even 30, and I know children, know nothing. So there are these, when you're, single, and so that's a time for rapid growth and taking risks. Don't do it when you're older and you got a family and you could be potentially on the street. Do it when you're young and single, and you could do it.
Yeah, definitely. How long? So when all the shit hit the fan to when you really got your head out of the water, like what was that time frame? Was that a couple of years, couple months?
No, that was, so I started shooting in 93, 94 is when I inherited my camera. This was 2005. So there was a lot of on and off, a lot of fears, and then a lot of, going towards that fear. And then something really would happen that at the time would scare me off. And then I would stop and I'd be angry and I'd go through those emotions. And then eventually I would really get frustrated at the job I had. And I'm like, all right, when you have a shitty job, it's an inspiration to do something. At least that's how I see it. And I would approach it again, and then I would do some animation. We worked together doing animation and web design. So, but I always went back to photography. That's why I knew that this was my thing. You just feel it.
Gotcha.
But yeah, it's scary, dude. It's scary because it's like, there were times when I just finished my lunch, which was like a little bit of nothing, and I have no idea where dinner's going to come from, or my food the next day, or my bills. You either at that point, you either get to hustling, or you crumple yourself up and get on the ground. There's an analogy I thought of at this time when I was going through this hard time, because there were moments where I would just curl up in the ball on the hardwood floor of my little bungalow I was renting, and just have quiet and just be quiet. And hoping at that moment that I could cry because that would be a release, but I wasn't able to. I would just lay there. But in one of those sessions, I guess it was early meditation. Now I meditate all the time, but I didn't know what it was back then. But I had this vision of like this bull, right? And like I'm standing there in the bull ring and I'm wearing like all red, like the worst thing you should probably wear in a bull ring. And here comes this bull. So you have some options, right? You have the option of fighting the bull. Maybe you're going to hold it off for like a second or two, but a bull's going to run you down. Or just give up and lay down and let the bull stomp on you anyways. Or wait for you see the bull coming, like, oh man, here comes this giant scary thing. And right as it gets to you, you just acknowledge it. And then you just step out of the way. And for that moment, you have a brief moment of clarity where you could truly see who you are and you could truly see where you want to go. And when you have that moment of clarity, and for some people, it often comes like in the shower or when you do yoga or when you run or something. But
right.
Thinking of that visual at that moment, I had that moment of clarity. I said, okay, I'm scared. This is a scary situation, and I'm acknowledging it. But the opposite of this is on the other side of this obstacle is a really cool life. And I want that life for me because I know I'm talented enough to do it. I just have to get the work in front of the right people. And that still holds true today, I think, for everybody.
Right. Yeah, exactly. So have you used those things that got you through that time? Have you used that same mindset to get you through other things since then? Like other times in your life when you've had a struggle, do you go back to those times and pull from what you learned from that experience and apply that to a current situation?
Well, yeah, I mean, yeah, I think we all do by default, whether you're trying to live in the past or not. You just do, because those are lessons that you could be like, oh, okay, well, 1 + 1 = 2. You're not trying to learn that over again. So yeah, I do pull from that, but I go back to the analogy of the fear and what is fear and how it's just created in your head, because the reality is what you have is this. You have just this moment. You don't have the past. You don't have the future. You just have this very moment. So what can I do in this moment to get myself back on track? Do that, And sometimes I didn't make the right decision. Sometimes I'm like, yeah, I'm going to get hammered and,
yeah,
go create, give myself a break or whatever. But it's, now more so, okay, if I can just find a place in the house for like 5 minutes and just practice my breathing, even for 2 minutes, I'm back on track. Yeah.
So you're still shooting now. What inspires you now to shoot?
Just my everyday life. I've been kind of shooting mainly with my iPhone for a while, but consciously since like September, since I came out the Phoenix last. And it's just basically like, what I'm aiming for now is vision. What I've been aiming for basically forever is my vision. Once you get the technical part, then it's like, okay, what do you want to say with that technical skill? All right. Now that you know how to paint, the other stuff is like, it's extra to learn little techniques here and there. But once you understand how to communicate, once you understand how to write a sentence, what is it that you want to say? And with visual art, when you learn how to write that sentence, what do you want to say with your work? So that's what I've been focusing on. And up until I took a hiatus, my themes were basically community diversity and self-expression, mainly within niche communities. And it wasn't consciously that I was like, let me have these as my themes. It was more so like over the years, I was just always drawn to people that are self-expressed and maybe in niche communities. It could be transgender, or it could be people that, are minorities or whatever. And it's more so like approaching it from empathy, being like, I see that this person is dealing with some shit. How can I show their story? Or it could be something positive. And how can I show their story as far as how I see it? So now what I've been focusing on is mainly just like family and lately documenting everyday living in this weird COVID thing and reality show president, and now watching all of the facts come down and the consequences of having a leader such as the one we have how it's
Yeah, definitely. I can definitely, we were talking about earlier with your work, and the type of work that you were shooting there. You can, going through your stuff, you can definitely see that you're passionate about that. And I think you have an eye, it's something you have an eye for. Like, you capture those moments. And I think that the reason you capture it so well is because of how passionate you are about it. Like, it translates right there. It's fully transparent with what you're doing. So.
Well, I appreciate it. I'm glad you see that. It's when we're creating, we get into that zone, and for me, that when I'm in that zone, that is really the only time that I can truly be present with reality, with myself, with everything. I have other moments, like shorter moments, like I have time with my wife and my son where I'm like just completely present to them.
Mm-hmm.
And that could, I don't know how long that lasts, but I know, like, when I'm shooting, if a photo shoot's lasting 5-6 hours, those 5 or 6 hours, I'm not even necessarily in my body at all times. I'm more so within the image, and I'm looking through the viewfinder or the screen, and I'm composing, and it's like I'm not thinking about the f-stops or whatever. It's just more just like a fluency at that point, right? You're just creating. And when I have those moments, I am not impacted in a bad way by the mental health issues that I'm dealing with, which is ADHD and potentially bipolar too. I don't know. I mean, I'm still trying to figure that out, but
and so one of the takeaways that I'd like to get through with this is, what advice would you have for somebody who's going through some kind of struggle in their time of life?
So for artists, for young people that want to do art for a living, it's a really good opportunity to do art for a living, but don't approach it with the traditional sense, because we've been in an age of screens for a while. I used to speak on this stuff at trade shows like CES and whatnot, and people would hate it. They'd be like, they're really angry. But the reality is we've been in an age of screens for a while. So understand the market. And then you have to decide, are you doing this? And this is one area that I wish I had figured out and kind of made a decision early on. I guess I did. Just not without thinking it through consciously. But, at the time, I wish I had been like, okay, do I want a business that sells art, or do I want to be an artist? There's two different approaches. Like anytime you see
Oh, for
somebody's
sure.
work and it's like generic and there's like no soul to it, that's often just boring ass commercial work. And that person very often is having they're putting their focus on running their business.
Mm-hmm.
And if you want to do things long term, you really need to make sure your business is solid, that you're on time. I mean, these are stupid things, they're basic things, but you would be surprised how many young artists fuck it up because they're like, well, I'm an artist, I don't have to show up on time. I'm an artist, I don't have to be sober, I don't have to be clean, nice and tidy with my appearance. You have to be yourself, but you have to be a cleaned up version of yourself when you are running a business that happens to sell art. Now, if you just want to be an artist and be broke, then you need to be okay with being broke and don't bitch about not having money, because that's where you're going. And then just do your art, and you could fuck off and make art. And maybe when you're dead, someone will discover you and hallelujah. But you got to have that balance. You got to have that balance, because it's like, for me, I always did this for the art, but at the same time, I'm like, can I do this all the time? And that means that I have to do some things that I don't want to do. That's being an adult. So I'll be like, cool, I'm going to go shoot this job. And man, this job is, I call it the spectrum. So we have pure art. I'm going to do a music video with my friends for some weed and some beer or whatever. And it's just for pure art. And then the other end, you have trash for cash, which is like something that you would never really want to do, but you're not morally objected to it. But the money is so good, you're like, that'll fund the passion projects, and that'll pay my bills, and that'll give me the mind space to progress as an artist. And the ideal stuff is, in between, you have something where you're working with people that you care about, or maybe a subject matter that is important to you. You're getting some money, and there is, of course, some compromise, but it's not like it's going to negatively impact the art and per your vision. And you got to remove emotion from that stuff as much as possible. Understand that if somebody says no, or somebody is like, hey, we don't have enough money or whatever, don't get mad at them necessarily, because it may not be them saying, look, I want to do this to you, Matt. I want to get you. I want to get you, Giulio. I mean, and you will meet those people, but the most part, it's just like someone that's behind the scenes and they don't have the money, or who knows what they got going on. Just don't take it personally.
Yeah, exactly.
You know?
Yeah, yep.
And then, of course, you got to decide, okay, is this something that I truly believe in? Is this like when we did the augmented reality shoot for the Department of Health? It was like,
Yep.
no one's really done this before. It's an opportunity for us to do something really different. It's for a good cause. It helps children in need and families in need, which is huge. And, I'm still going to make money and I'm still going to have fun. So what else would I do that day? If I didn't have that job, exactly. I'd be calling on other people to be, so it's like at some point you got to be like, yeah, that sounds great, with the understanding of again, it's going to help individuals versus help profit. So people over profit, that's what's important to me. So I will say, yes, I'll do it for a little bit less, as long as I'm able to still make the money that I need to make. But then also at the same time, it's like, versus if it's a giant multinational company and they're like, we got more money than God, and we just want to be cheap for the purpose of being cheap. And you're like, no.
Yeah, exactly.
No.
So what do you see in the near future with your inspiration and your photography?
In the near future, not a whole lot, man. I've been chilling. I've been playing a lot with more augmented reality stuff, more doing different types of animated portraits, which is.
Do you feel like you're experimenting a little bit more now than you had before in the past?
Yeah, 100%. When you wake up and you're like, cool, I don't have to make this image with the purpose of pleasing a sponsor or selling it, then it's like, well, you can do whatever you want to do. What would that be? Now, for a while, I was stuck. I was blocked. I was creatively blocked for like a couple of years, because I had a client that was paying me a lot of money to do whatever I wanted to do. When I had this realization, I almost had like a breakdown. I was just like, what am I going to make when I have basically an open book to write my budget for whatever I need?
Yeah, it's like that blank canvas, right?
Right. And I'm like, and then what happens is when you have no constraints, then it's hard to make a decision. So you always need to have some constraints. So the constraints now is like, I have no budget. We're in this crisis. The other constraint I have is like, I really enjoy creating with my phone. And I enjoy creating with all these individual, independently created apps. I enjoy that because it communicates in a way visually to the public in a visual language they understand. Like someone sees footage from GoPro, they see that as GoPro. They're not upset that it's like not like polished and super sharp and 16:9 or whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
Same with the phone. So there's a accepted aesthetic in the public eye. So then it's like, cool. Since we're at that point, how can I, as someone who is a visionary creative, create content that is satisfying to me, but also makes things move forward more? And that's kind of where my focus is trying to see where things go, where like I'm feeling a spark in some directions. Like I really enjoy manipulating depth data from the phone and augmented reality data from the phone.
For sure.
So I'm messing with that, but and then also audio on the phone, because it's things go on in cycles, and where things were when you and I graduated in the 90s was like, you got to specialize. And now it's like, you really should be doing a little bit of be able to do other things, because you need additional streams of income.
Yeah.
Everybody expects you to understand social media, even if you don't have a ton of followers. And often you're going to be asked to create something that's video based or audio based. And if I'm like, well, no, I just shoot photos, well, guess what? Then you're not going to get that commission.
Yeah. And you're limiting yourself at that point too.
Yeah.
Damn.
So let that, I hope that puts things in perspective for people, that if you are making excuses like I'm not good enough or whatever, it's just like, please
Yeah,
Please.
fuck the excuses. I mean, the excuses are only going to hold you back.
Yeah. No one thinks
You know?
about it for a second when they're out having fun and they want to take a picture and they pull out their phone. There's
Right.
no
Yeah.
there's no like, oh gosh, I don't know if I can make this picture, or I don't know if I can make the video work. You're just shooting it. Shit or not, you're just shooting it. But when it comes to like, here's a camera or here's a keyboard, people are like, whoa, whoa, whoa.
Well, that's
But you know, you're the same person. You're the same person. And the thing is, you don't need that muscle that you would get from a dedicated camera. You don't need that muscle necessarily that you would get from a $50,000 Mac Pro. You just need what's in your pocket, and you just need to fuck around and have fun and explore.
Yeah, and just
Visual
create.
artist, play with GarageBand. You know, you're a musician, play with just a basic camera app on your phone. Just, you know, build your vision. Like Ben Aqua is great for this kind of stuff. He does a lot of music, and the dude has done really well for himself. So that's
Just
really where you
play around and have fun.
have fun, stick to your vision. And again, your vision is what speaks on your behalf when you're not around. So if you're like right now, I'm experimenting, but I'm not really posting it because I don't have the energy to post it and then sell it, basically to talk about why people should be using this and why it's good, and so playing the social media game. But the fast followers they have the energy because they're not innovating. They're fast followers. So a fast follower, basically you can do your experiments, whatever, behind the scenes, and you're just kind of watching the market and watching it. You'll start to see, if you watch it carefully, you'll start to see almost like a wave. You'll start to see it move a certain direction, but it hasn't hit the mass market yet. And you want to be able to do it before it hits the mass market with your content and everything. And if you're going to be a fast follower, if you're going to be an innovator and try to be successful with it long term, you have to have that incredible amount of drive, either through yourself or partners, to create the content, but then also force it out there in the world and force people to look at it. Otherwise, the fast followers will have a better handle on that social strategy or marketing or whatever it is. And they're the ones that'll take your ideas and they'll run with it. And legally, you know, there's no legal thing, you can't steal ideas, but dude, fucking people steal shit all the time.
Yeah, now more than ever. So
yeah. And I've been ripped off by so many fast followers at this point. I'm like, okay, I know where things are going. I'm always really good at seeing where it's going to go 5 to 10 years. And you know, I won't tell anybody other than privately, like yourself. At this point, I'm going to wait till the opportunity really presents itself, and then I'm going to pounce.
It's a smart strategy, dude.
Yeah, you have to, because when I'm 45 years old, got a kid, family, I'm tired. You know, it's like, well, you guys, younger people can be faster. I'll be smarter.
Nice, dude. Well, I think that was awesome, man. I'm super inspired right now, for sure, after this conversation. So that was really awesome. And hopefully anyone who's listening or watching is definitely inspired from it as well. So yeah, definitely.
You don't want everybody to like you. Don't be oatmeal. Don't be like plain yogurt. I love my oatmeal on occasion, and I like my plain yogurt. But what do you remember? You remember that spicy dish or that really interesting piece of pizza that gave you heartburn or whatever. And you got to make your art the same way. If you're doing it for yourself, it's a hell yes or no. That's it. There's no middle ground. It's either hell yes, I'm going to go do this, or no. And I'm like, okay, fine. Because then you're not creating good work. You're tapping out your energy, and you're hating life. And you got to understand that there's so many people, everybody in the world is online, especially now. So let people hate you. That's fine. If you're getting trolls and you're getting haters, you're doing the right thing. That's an indicator that you're triggering something, not with the intention of triggering something, but with the intention of being self-expressed. I'm Giulio and I love this and da 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 da. And if you don't, that's cool. And you know what? People are going to be like, they're going to get all angry. You know, too bad, so sad. You know, but look at Kanye West, like him or not, for music,
right,
or political. Yeah. You know who he is, and he's making his art for him. He's the maximum Kanye West, and he's doing good. Someone like Steve Jobs, people behind the scenes said that guy was a jerk, but look what he did. The only way to really be prolific in the long term is to be true to yourself, and that means that if you don't be dumb. You're not going to go into a meeting if you're trying to land a job with like a big corporation and go in there with with my kind of shirt that says fuck you, fucking fuck on it, you're not going to do that. You're going to go on and be appropriate, but you're still yourself. You don't want to compromise that all the time, and really try not to compromise it at all. Because the people that love you will absolutely love you and they'll buy what you're selling. But if you're trying to please everybody, you're only one person, you don't got that kind of output, and you're not trying to make a mass market piece. Because if you're making mass market pieces, how you compete is price, like Walmart. Okay?
Yeah, exactly.
If you're making quality products, now you are, as a small boutique, a business like every local market has, and you can only get whatever that is at that place. And they're going to charge whatever they charge, and you're going to spend, $15 on 2 scoops of ice cream or whatever. But you know what? You're going to love it.
And people are going to pay for it.
Yeah. Yeah. Or you're going to go to Walmart and you're going to get your Blue Bell and you're going to have diarrhea the next day.
Exactly.
Cha, 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 motherfucker. Whatever you want to do. So
you got to keep it authentic. I think, that's ultimate truth right there. Because if not, people are going to see right through that shit. Especially now with social media and people putting their work out there. So cool.
Oh yeah. And where to find me? Just look for Giulio Sciorio on Instagram, and you'll have to figure out how to spell it. And if you can spell it, you'll find me. And I know you really want to follow me, and send me a message too. So, I found you on Matt's podcast, Trust Your Struggle. I'm like, all right. But if you don't find me, then you're not trying hard enough. And if you can't find me and you're trying to make a living as an artist, and that's the best you got, then stop right now and go do something else.
Yeah. Don't be lazy.
Yeah.
All right, man. Thanks again, dude. I really appreciate it.
Cheers.
All right, dude. Later. Thanks, man.